The book shouldn't have been there. It wasn't on the manifest, not in the catalog. No barcode, no due date stamped on the card inside. It just sat there on the returns card at 7:04 a.m., spine cracked, edges worn down like it had passed through too many hands and not enough light. I almost didn't touch it. I was reshelving oversized atlases when I saw it, a black leather binding, unmarked, tucked between a romance novel and a guide to poisonous plants. That's the kind of library we run here. No system ever quite catches up. Sometimes the dead letters shelf files itself. My name is Cass Fenley. I've worked at the Delmere Public Library for 11 years. Circulation desk, mostly. Reference requests when we still had the budget for interlibrary loan. I keep the lights on and the shelves alphabetized, and I know when something doesn't belong. This didn't belong. The title page was handwritten. Cursive. Old, but not antique. Collected Events, Volume 17. That was the first odd thing. The second was the first page. A news clipping from 2 days ago. Only, that day hadn't happened yet. It was dated for this coming Saturday. Woman found unconscious in Lakewood Square. Witnesses say she spoke of a fire before collapsing. Underneath it was a photo. Grainy, ink faded. It was me, same coat, same bag, same hair tie I was wearing that morning. I blinked and looked again. Still me. I shut the book and locked it in my drawer. Told myself it was a prank, something left behind by an art student or one of the conspiracy regulars. But the next morning, Volume 17 was gone. In its place, Volume 18. Different spine. Same worn leather. Same title script. This one opened to a headline from next week. Local librarian disappears hours after unexplained power outage. I checked the grid map. A maintenance window had been logged for Tuesday. Something about transformer replacement. Not even made public yet. This wasn't a prank. This was a timeline. A map of events printed before they occurred. Every page forward was a day I hadn't lived yet. I flipped ahead. There were 6 more clippings, all local, all terrifying. A fire, a collapse, a death. My name appearing more often than it didn't. At the end of the book, there was a blank page. Just one. And a sticky note. Write carefully. I didn't go home that night. I stayed in the back office, door locked, phone off. I opened Volume 18 again. A new page had appeared. Typed. Not printed. Cass, stop reading. Start listening. I didn't tell anyone. Who would believe me? That the circulation desk at a forgotten public library held volumes that printed the future in real time. That the stack room whispered when I walked past, not in voices, but in fluttering paper. That when I looked away from Volume 18 for exactly 7 minutes, it rewrote itself. Not metaphorically, the pages changed, the headlines moved forward. Incremental, but precise. Sunday's fire moved to Saturday. A bridge collapse got bumped back 3 days. One article, about me, shifted from missing to hospitalized condition unknown. It was as if the book responded to me. So I did the unthinkable. I tore a page out. Just one. A Wednesday headline about a gas main leak downtown. I tore it out, burned it in the staff room sink, and flushed the ashes before I could think twice. I came back to the book. The page was blank. I waited. 6 minutes. 10. Nothing. Then, a new page printed. Leak prevented. Local employee flags structural risk. There was no photo this time. No quote. Just one sentence at the bottom. You're being read. I stopped breathing. The library was quiet. Too quiet. Not the usual hum of the HVAC or the shifting of old bindings. Just the sound of nothing. Not even traffic outside. Then the bell above the front door rang. A man stepped in. Tall, pale. Thin black coat, soaked at the edges like he'd walked here through rain no one else felt. He didn't ask for help, just walked straight to the history section and pulled a book off the shelf. He opened it, and inside was me. Not the article, not the clippings, a drawing. My face, inked in startling precision, mouth open, hand reaching. I approached. He looked up. His eyes were dull gray, old and impossible. "This isn't your story," he said softly. "Not yet. Who writes it? The ones who came before you." He closed the book. "You've been cited. What does that mean?" But he was already walking toward the exit. When I followed, he was gone. No footprints. No car. Only the book he'd held was left behind. Different leather. No title. Inside the cover, handwritten code. Not numbers. Cataloging marks. The kind only librarians use. Shelve under prophecy. Do not scan. The date inside, 1963, stamped with the name of a librarian who vanished the year I was born. I flipped to the last page. There was a question written in pencil. What happens when the librarian becomes the source? Then a new sound. Printer in the back office. Only I hadn't sent anything to print. I ran. One page waited on the tray. No header, no formatting, just a sentence. "He's not the first patron to leave a warning." And scrawled underneath, in pen I didn't recognize, Volume 19 is already on its way. Volume 19 arrived on a Monday, same as always. No one saw it come in. No delivery slip. No patron drop. Just there, half shoved between microhistories and mythology, like it had been waiting. The cover darker than the last, heavier, as if the book had learned weight. I opened it slowly. The first page was blank. Then, line by line, words appeared. Not ink, not typed, like condensation forming in language. Do not interfere. I flipped ahead. The chapters weren't clippings anymore. They were entries. Logs. Direct address second person, like it was being written in real time about me. You lock the front doors at 6:58 p.m. You find a girl waiting by the newspaper archive. You don't recognize her, but she knows you. I froze. Footsteps behind me. Soft. I turned, and there she was. 12, maybe 13. Hair braided with string. Holding a library card dated 1994. Name, Lena. No last name. "I'm supposed to warn you," she said, "about the Tuesday event." What event? But she only shook her head and whispered, "You're reading it wrong." Then she ran. Not out the door. Into the stacks. I followed. Fiction, history, biography, aisles warped in impossible turns. Lights flickered. My breath clouded in the air like we were outside. A wind whispered between titles. Then, I lost her. Only the smell of paper and ink remained. I made my way back to the circulation desk, but something had changed. All the clocks read 4:44. All of them. Even the battery ones. Time wasn't passing. It was waiting. Volume 19 sat open, right where I'd left it. The next entry, you returned. But not all of you. The library doesn't forget who steps into its folds. You were seen. You were read. Now you must choose, shelve or write. I opened the drawer. Volume 17 was there again, but now it had a lock on it. Brass. Old. Familiar. I ran to the staff room and dug through the lost key box. At the bottom, beneath 100 rusted skeletons, I found a tag. Cass, do not use. It fit. The lock clicked. Volume 17 opened to a new spread. 2 pages, side by side. Left side, a library fire. Headlines, photos of blackened shelves. Right side, me, seated behind the desk, smiling. Only 1 page would survive. I touched the fire page. The lights above me dimmed. Touched the other. The room warmed. Then, for the first time, I noticed the books around me weren't whispering. They were watching. And one shelf, tucked at the far back, had just opened like a door. The catalog inside? Blank, waiting for its first entry. The shelf opened without a sound. No hinges, just shadow parting like a curtain. It led into a corridor, barely wider than a book spine, lined with stacks older than anything in Delmere's archives. Not Dewey Decimal. Not even Roman indexing. Just symbols carved into the bindings. Some glowed faintly, like they were being read by invisible eyes. I stepped in. The air changed. It was still the library, but not the one upstairs. This one was asleep. Or dreaming. Or both. My footsteps didn't echo, but something followed anyway. At the end of the corridor, a desk, not like mine, older. Smooth wood, worn by centuries of ink and thought. Behind it sat a man, hunched, eyes closed. But the pen in his hand moved steadily across a journal with no title. He didn't look up. "You finally came," he said, voice like dry leaves. I didn't answer. He turned the page. Wrote another line. "You were never supposed to find volume 17. Then why was it on my cart? Because the library changes when the world stops listening. His eyes opened. Pale green, too sharp to be old. "I used to sit where you sit. When they built this place, they didn't just fill it with books. They filled it with options." He gestured to the shelves. "Every major decision stored. Every lost moment recorded. What you've read, it wasn't a prophecy, it was a petition. Reality asking for a different draft." I opened my mouth, closed it. "You were writing it before you knew you were," he said. He turned the journal toward me. The last line he'd written, "Cass opens the final shelf." I backed away. "This is too much." "Not yet," he said, "but it will be." He reached into the desk and pulled out a book I hadn't seen before. Smaller, thinner, bound in dark red. Volume 20. But 19 just arrived. He slid it to me. It didn't. I opened it. The first page, blank. The second, my name. The third, the word, erased. Below it, unwritten due to non-compliance. I looked up. "You're saying if I don't finish the cycle, I disappear?" "No," he said gently. "Not disappear, unhappen." He leaned back. "You saw what happened when you removed a page, but you haven't tested what happens when you write one. The door behind me, the one I entered through, vanished. Gone. The shelf sealed over like it had never moved. You can shelve the past, or you can author the next line. But once you write, Cass, there's no reading it back." Then the desk lit from within. The journal on his desk shifted colors. No longer black, but silver, reflective. And I saw my reflection ripple across the cover. It was smiling. But I wasn't. I stared at the silver-covered journal. Its surface rippled like mercury, reflecting versions of me that hadn't happened yet. Hair longer, face older, eyes I didn't recognize. The man behind the desk was gone. Not walked away. Vanished, like his time here had expired the moment I sat down. The pen was warm in my hand. The blank page waited. I wrote 3 words. "I stay quiet." The page shivered. Lines spidered outward from the ink, as if the journal were digesting it. Then, new text appeared beneath mine. Not handwritten, but etched into the paper like frost. Consequence. Lena never arrives. Bridge fails. 3 lives lost. Library absorbs the silence. I flipped the page, breath quickening. Blank. I wrote again. I find her. Another ripple. Consequence. Bridge holds. 1 injured. A warning spreads. Library breathes. It was cause and effect. Micro decisions. But I wasn't seeing options. I was seeing repercussions. That's when I noticed the shelves were shifting again. Not just the secret corridor. All of them. Through the gaps in the stacks, titles began rearranging. Fiction blurred into history. Memoir folded into myth. Every book I had ever shelved began to hum. Then the lights above the circulation desk flickered red. That had never happened. I ran back toward the main floor. The staff stairwell stretched too long, twisted one corner farther than the building should allow. When I emerged, the library was off. Still and distorted. Light slanted through windows that hadn't been there yesterday. A clock above the desk read 12 o'clock, but the sun outside was setting. A single figure waited at the microfiche machine. Lena. She was older now, 17 maybe, or had it only been hours? I warned you, she said without turning. I tried to help. She turned. Her eyes weren't just sad, they were tired, like someone who had lived too many endings. You open the edit path. What does that mean? It means the library doesn't just watch the future. It offers it to be rewritten. She pulled a torn page from her pocket. It was from volume 21. I hadn't seen it yet. She handed it to me. Delmere Public Library destroyed in fire. Cause unknown. Only volume 20 survives. I looked up at her. Why give this to me? Because you're the only one who's read both ways. Reader and writer. Then tell me how to stop it. She stepped backward. Into the shelves. And the shelves closed around her. No sound. Just one word, echoing in the quiet. Choose. And when I turned back to the desk, the silver journal was there again. But this time, every page was already filled. And on the last one, my own signature. Underneath it, final edit pending. The silver journal pulsed like a heartbeat. Every filled page inside shimmered faintly, and every line, mine. Written in my hand, but I hadn't written them yet. Futures I hadn't lived, decisions I hadn't made, and at the end, a final one-word command, submit. The air in the library changed. Books began falling from shelves without sound, covers flapping open like wings. The walls creaked inward, not crumbling, not breaking, but folding, like the library was closing its own chapters. A final notice printed itself from the old receipt machine behind the desk. Faint ink. Fragile paper. System unstable. Narrative conflict detected. Author status unresolved. I tore the page free. The moment I did, the fire alarm began to scream. But there was no smoke. Only heat. Pages curled on the tables. Light bulbs burst. The index computer blinked erratically, displaying titles that didn't exist. Cass. Interrupted. Final lending. Obituary for the future. I tried to run back to the corridor, the one behind the shifting shelf. It was gone. No trace. Just smooth wall and dust. I looked for Lena. Gone. The man with the green eyes. Gone. Even the air felt thinner, like the library had exhaled everything but me. The silver journal reopened on its own. A blank page formed. Final entry. I hesitated. Then I wrote, "The library survives." The journal pulsed once, then rejected the ink. The words vanished. The page responded, "Unsupported claim. Contradiction detected. Requires sacrifice." My hands shook. The fire alarm went silent. The lights cut out. One final line appeared beneath the warning. You may write one more page, but only from within. I knew what it meant. No outside author, no distant editor. To fix it, to close it cleanly, the librarian had to stay. I turned to the circulation desk. It was glowing faintly. Not metaphor, real light, pale and golden. The exact hue of early morning, before anyone else is awake. The light you shelf books in when you don't know if anyone's coming. I sat down, picked up the pen, wrote 4 words. I stayed to write. The floor steadied. The lights returned. The books stilled. The alarm fell silent like it had never been born. And the journal? It closed. Not locked. Not hidden. Just shelved. Somewhere in the corner, the receipt machine hummed again. One final strip printed. New author registered, Cass Fenley. Story status, stable. Library condition, awaiting next reader. And that's how it ends. Or begins. If you ever find yourself at Delmere Public, ask for the special archive. If they trust you, they might let you hold volume 21. But read it slowly. You're already on its page, and someone's still writing in the margins.